What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again talking college basketball. Today, it is Sunday, January the 18th. Coming off a weird slate yesterday, definitely not the best day for me. A lot of the best teams in the country either got upset, like Iowa State, or did not cover spreads. Arizona, Michigan, UConn, the list goes on. A couple big leads were blown. Tennessee, they blew a massive lead. Oklahoma as well. That was another staple this Saturday. So a lot of what we saw was status quo holding for the most part, but not looking the best while doing so. Today's slate is much shorter, being Sunday, a lot of American games. But if you like this content, please consider subscribing to the channel or leaving a like on the video if you do enjoy this. It helps us a ton, keeps us doing it, gets us in front of new viewers, and helps us grow. If you or somebody you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. We do discuss sides and totals during the breakdown. But let's get to some of these American games. Weird conference this year with Memphis being down. Tulsa's taking on UAB. This is actually a pretty fun game. The most interesting thing about Tulsa is they are the #1 three-point shooting team in the nation. Right now, UAB is a 2-point favorite at home. The total is 158. For injuries, Miles Rigsby, he comes off the bench. He's been hurt for Tulsa. And right now, Tulsa is currently ranked 77th in the country, according to KenPom. We like to use them over AP rankings, anything else, just due to accuracy. They're 14-3, 2-2 in the American. Losses are to Kansas State, North Texas, and USF. Only North Texas is outside the top 100, and all of their losses are semi-close. They don't have a top 100 win yet. Their best victory is against Northern Iowa on a neutral court. Strength of schedule is not great for Tulsa. They come in 204th. As far as UAB, they are currently 108th in power rankings with a record of 12-6. They have losses to NC State, Middle Tennessee, Troy, Wichita, FAU, but the worst loss they took was to Alabama State, who is currently ranked 297. They do have a pair of top 100 wins, though, against High Point, who's 98, and South Florida in double overtime. They've played the 225th ranked schedule. To sum it all up, Tulsa's a lot more balanced. With UAB, you have 2 top 100 wins that Tulsa doesn't have, but you also have a loss near 300, which is concerning. Stylistically, neither team is particularly tall. Tulsa is 239th. UAB is 291st. And somehow they're both pretty good at rebounding. It's more of an aggression thing, and they're both top 50 defensive rebounding. You don't get a ton of the offensive glass for these teams, so it's not really a mismatch one way or the other. However, Tulsa is a very good shooting team. You don't get to be #1 in the country in three-point percentage without being a good shooting team. Tylen Riley, David Green, Miles Barnstable, Ade Papula are all above 39% from three. That's 4 individual players. And this is a mismatch without question. On defense, UAB is 147th defending the perimeter, 106th overall. Tulsa is also decent inside. They come in 95th there. It's not the same advantage as the perimeter shooting, but you're going to have UAB with their hands full trying to take anything to stop this. When UAB has the ball, they're way, way worse at shooting. 252nd in effective field goal percentage, 341st from three, and they've realized their problems. They are only 357th in three-point rate. They're basically a team that is either going to play you in transition, post you up, or try to dribble drive. Now, on defense, Tulsa is 187th. They're 118th inside, 248th on the perimeter. Being better inside is at least noteworthy in this matchup. It's still not really a strength for this team. They have been vulnerable due to their size, but it's not like UAB is much taller than this Tulsa team either. Neither team really turns the ball over or fouls. UAB does generate the second most turnovers in the nation. Tulsa is 76th in fouls drawn. So maybe some micro advantages for both teams in either statistical category. Tulsa is 167th in tempo. UAB is 77th. We mentioned UAB will try to play in transition. Tulsa is going to try to limit that. And all this leads to, on the spread, we took a Tulsa plus a 1.5. It is now +2. I think you can play this. We currently make this a 0.5 point in favor of UAB. It's not my favorite line of the day. Obviously, the line movement against me is not something you want to see, but if you want to look at a total, also make this around 160. It's currently sitting at 158. So that's our first play. We're going to be on the Tulsa side. Next up in the American, Florida Atlantic versus Temple. This game has a spread of 2 points as well. This time in favor of the road team, Florida Atlantic. The total is 151.5. No major injuries. To get here, Florida Atlantic has jumped to 93rd overall. They're 12-6. No real losses that are super concerning. The worst one they took was to Tulane by 3 points on the road, then St. Bonaventure, and it only goes up from there. They only have a single top 100 win. That was over Memphis, who is maybe going to be out of the top 100 very soon. They did win by double digits, though. They also beat the aforementioned UAB by 5 points on the road. They beat Wichita State at 105. So they have a couple games that are just hanging right outside the top 100. They're 97th in strength of schedule. Temple, meanwhile, is 147th overall. They're 11-6. They have some losses that are a little bit worse. They've dropped games outside the top 100 to Boston College, UC San Diego, Rhode Island, St. Joseph's, and then you lose to Memphis as well. However, they do have two top 200 wins. Hofstra and Davidson. Make of that what you will. The strength of schedule is not very good for this Temple team outside of a couple teams at the top that you're not beating, like Villanova, stuff like that bolsters them, but those aren't really winnable games for this Temple squad. So you get into stylistics. The biggest probably advantage in the whole game is FAU is 84th in height. Temple is 315th. Rebounding, FAU is 59th. Temple is 195th. This is a huge disadvantage for Temple on the glass, via size, probably inside. You just go to shooting right away. Florida Atlantic is 68th inside. They're better shooting inside than from three. They shoot a fair amount of threes, though. But, I mean, they use a ton of pick and pop, pick and rolls with their bigs, keeping them involved. Being 149th on defense inside for Temple, this is a big mismatch. And when you do run these pick and pops, say you dedicate extra resources and pack the paint, well, Isaiah Elohim and Devin Vanterpool are both pretty good three-point shooters at 43 and 38%. When Temple has the ball, they don't really score that well. They're 166th in effective field goal, 234th in two-point percent, 56th in three-point percent, but they don't shoot a lot of threes for being as good as they are. And really, their main shooter is Gavin Griffiths. He's the only one above 40%. Most of the offense comes from just trying to attack the rim. And FAU has been vulnerable there at times, but this team is still better defending the inside, 82nd in there versus 268th on the perimeter. Unless Temple decides to shoot more threes, this is a pretty bad matchup for them. One thing, when you get to the periphery, Florida Atlantic does turn the ball over a lot. Fortunately for them, Temple's very rarely forcing them. Temple never turns the ball over themselves, so you don't really have any turnover margin stuff. Temple is 44th in fouls drawn. That would be more of an edge, but FAU is only about middle of the pack in fouls committed. As far as tempo goes, FAU 63rd, Temple 281st. Nothing really to be seen there. Overall, pretty strong advantages for FAU. We took a 1.5 in this game too, this time getting the positive closing line. But you could probably still find 1.5 if you look in the game. As far as total goes, where the model has this, 154.5. This is one I will consider playing. A lot of money's coming on the under, but we'll look towards an over. Just got to get over Temple's slow pacing if you want to look that direction. Couple big games in the horizon, probably the biggest, Oakland and Green Bay. Both of these teams are 6-2 in conference. Nassim Mashauer has been out for Oakland. Maran Cicic has been out for Green Bay. Oakland comes in 125th. They've had an awesome season in the horizon, and they're only 10-9 overall because they schedule a lot of these really hard non-conference teams and take the bye games. They just take the money. So their 4 losses, or 9 out of their 9 losses, only 4 are outside the top 50, which is a crazy number. They did drop to number 193 Eastern Michigan, 104 Northern Iowa, and then twice to Wright State. They do have 3 top 200 wins, beating 187 Montana on the road, 158 Toledo, and then 165 Northern Kentucky. They've played the 44th ranked strength of schedule, and again, they're 6-2 in the horizon. Green Bay has jumped all the way to 224. They're 11-8 overall. The bad losses for them are to Buffalo at 183, number 215 Robert Morris, and 186 Campbell. They also have 3 top 200 wins. They beat UMass, who's 175. They beat Santa Barbara, who's 169, and they also beat Northern Kentucky. So this is a pretty good body of work for Green Bay. They're also 6-2 in the Horizon, but they're only 205th in strength of schedule. Size-wise, neither team very big. Oakland has a slight advantage there, 263 versus 335. Rebounding, Green Bay is actually better. Green Bay is 44th on the offensive glass, or excuse me, on the defensive glass, which is important because Oakland does try to attack the boards. But overall, the thing with Oakland is with that strength of schedule and some of the losses they took, you're probably going to see positive regression on the season. They're 153rd in effective field goal percentage, 179th from 3. They don't shoot a ton of threes. But when you look to conference play, they jump to 5th in interior efficiency. Their three-point percentage does jump. It's only 33%, so still not good. But a lot of the efficiency stuff with Oakland is getting better in conference play, playing competition that's more their level. Their main shooters are Brody Robinson at 38% and Brett White at 35%. They play a lot of high-low stuff. Green Bay's 274th in total defense, 320th inside. In conference play, they're 3rd in three-point defense, 7th on the interior. So the way Oakland plays is pretty advantageous in this matchup. Now, Green Bay is an awesome shooting team. They're 65th in effective field goal percentage, 73rd in three-point percent. I wish it would take more threes, honestly. 179th in rate stats. Preston Ruttinger is at 43%. Marcus Hall's at 41%, and Caden Wilkins is at 40%. Sometimes you don't always have the best players taking the best shots for this team, but when they let their shooters shoot, I mean, like this team can really put the ball down. Oakland is 278th in total defense, 339th inside, 147th on the perimeter, so it's not the best matchup. They have the top three-point defense in the Horizon so far. They're currently sitting at opponents shooting 29.9%. So I like to isolate what they've done in the Horizon just because their schedule was so hard. It's kind of a bad matchup for Green Bay on both sides of the court. Neither team really struggles with turnovers. Green Bay does commit a lot of fouls, and they're not very, like, they don't play a deep bench. They're 308 there. That could be an issue in this game. Tempo-wise, 2 drastically different teams. Oakland likes to run. Green Bay is 359th. Ultimately, our model has this as too many points, and I kind of agree. It's already moved a half point. On the back end, we make this minus a 2.6 with a 160 total. I don't know if I'm going to get there just because it is hard to evaluate the differences in strength of schedules. We do our best, but even then, all of your efficiency metrics are affected if you're Oakland playing that schedule. Maybe we'll get there. Hard to see it, though, especially with the stylistics favoring Oakland as well. The last game I want to just briefly touch on is probably the biggest game, at least the most brand name equity. The Big Ten has a couple games that are all bad today. But Arizona State is taking on Houston. And the one thing I think to watch in this game is Arizona State plays with a lot of size. They are very, very tall. They're number 1 in effective height in the country. They're basically using 2 6'11" or taller guys on the floor at the same time, basically all times. And this would be interesting to me against Houston, who's not the biggest team. They get in foul trouble a lot in the front court, but they've been so inefficient. So you look at the play of like Masamba Diop and Santiago Truitt, 6'11" and 7'1". How is this team so bad at rebounding? You were 235th. Houston's 146th at height, and like it's mainly Tugler down there. They're 47th at rebounding. So this is, when we look at the back end in the model in this game, it actually comes out to be almost efficient exactly. We have this minus 16.5 on the dot. We have the total at 145.7. So I'm not really interested in a side or a total on this game, but I am interested to see just how does Arizona State try to use their height? How does Houston play a team like this? Arizona State's kind of dead. It's basically just Mo Odom and the tall guys. But Houston looking for a little consistency, not having to rely on Kingston Flemings. Can we get a little bit more out of Milos Uzan, Emmanuel Sharp, and Joseph Tugler? But that'll do it for us today. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any feedback, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, we'll be back again probably tomorrow. It's the national championship for football, but I know there's some weird games on. We'll break them down. But until next time, good luck. We'll see you later.